Most of the time.
Most of the time. Neither of my children have gone to jail yet, except to visit other people. So, it's okay, whichever one you've chosen, you can be a good mama or a good dad. But you're asking, why are we sharing all this with you? The reason why we're sharing this with you, because we know that through all the things we went through as young parents, where you are now, we needed community, and that's one thing we had. We had a good community of people, and that's what you Mops girls are all to each other. Hopefully you Pops get involved in a little bit of that. But providing community, where a place where you can come and say, okay, here's where it really is today. This is how I really feel. Today I am not wearing my pink bow in my hair and my pearls. Today I'm wailing. Today, I'm not worried about whether or not he's got a nice meal when he comes home. I'm worried about whether or not I even want to say hi to him when he comes home. Because we all have both of those. We have the days where we're celebrating the good, and we have the days where we can't think about what the good is. And so we are hoping that each one of you sink deeply into community. And Mops can be that, your church can be that, a different group of friends can be that. But all of you need a place and people that you can share your hopes and your dreams and your hurts and the truths with. People that can hold you accountable, people that can encourage you. And notice I didn't say people to complain to. Because if I had one thing I would tell you I'd redo as a young wife, it would be to complain. I did way too much complaining. One of the reasons why he spent a lot of time and money trying to do things is he thought that would make me happy, and maybe I'd quit complaining. And so that's one thing I challenge young families to do, is to learn how to honor each other and to honor each other for who they are. This is a good man. Now, he isn't always exactly what I want him to be, and I'm not always exactly what he wants me to be, but he knows I'm a good woman. And he proves that every morning. Let me tell you what he does, girls. Guys, listen up. If you don't get anything out of this talk, y'all hear this. Every morning, right as we're finishing breakfast, he gets up and he walks around in my chair, and he spends about 3 minutes. Now, I wish it was 4. But he spends about 3 minutes rubbing my shoulders, because he knows I keep a tight neck. Every morning, he comes and rubs my shoulders for about 3 minutes. And he does it hard enough, I'm going like this. He does that because he loves me. And he's saying to me, you're a good woman. And so that's one of the things that you need each other for, to remind each other. You married each other for a reason.
We truly do believe that that these are some of the best days of your lives. I hope that is that way for you. I hope you're not living in that survival mode, to where you don't stop and say, this is good. Let's enjoy this right now. We didn't do enough of that. And I really encourage you to do that more and more, as much as possible. Because the world says, that we live in, our culture is a go, go, go culture. And even now, in our latter 50s, we still have to remind ourselves to slow down some. I'm talking to some of these families whose kids play sports, and it's every weekend, and a lot of them are not only just playing sports, they're on traveling sports teams now, which is kind of the big deal now. It's kind of and they're gone and they're spending an unbelievable amount of time, because here's the bottom line. You know what? In most cases, your kid is, hear me, average. I know you don't think that, and that's a good thing.
The coach will tell you someday your kid is average.
And there are very few of these kids that are going to be really good athletes. But it's unbelievable what I'm hearing some of these parents spending and the amount of time and what they're doing. And I guess what we want to say is, slow down. Slow down on that. Because these really can be some of the best days of your life.
The years that you're in right now are the years that Rob and I like to say are the ones of long days and short years. Your days are long, and there's lots of nights where you don't get enough sleep, and there's more months than there is money. and all the things that go along with that, but you're going to turn around and flash and your kids are gone. What you don't realize right now is the 18 years your children will live in your home, that's a fraction of your life. And right now you are so immersed in it, you forget that. And so it's hard sometimes to be really intentional. If we could back up and have a little bit of do-over, one of the things we try to do is be more intentional in looking at those character traits our children have and looking at, you know, the gifts they have or the things that maybe are not so easy for them, and really working on molding those in the ways that would be most use to them and to God's kingdom. Building the character in them that we desire. Our kids, like we said, they're grown now. Our daughter's 30. Our son's just a couple of weeks away from 28. Like I said, they both turned out well. Our daughter, even though she has a very challenging life, is one of the most godly women I know. And she teaches me about God in ways that I could not imagine. And I tell her all the time, when she'll bemoan some of the things she'll never have. She can't drive a car. She doesn't have the fine motor to be able to do a curling iron in her hair. She lives on her own, and she spends her time, a good part of her time, running after God, chasing God and seeking to be His woman. And I say to her all the time, there's nothing you could do, Lauren, more important than what you're doing. Her brother's a lawyer. And when we sat at her brother's law school graduation, it was hard for Lauren. She was judging herself as she heard Grant get the accolades. And I was able to look her in the face and say, Lauren, if I had to choose between you being a lawyer and you being who you are, I'd choose you all day long. You are who you are is so important. So both of our kids, they're great kids. They are not perfect kids, either one of them. But they're great kids, and we made lots and lots of mistakes, just like you will. Some of you are still looking for the book that was supposed to come with that baby when you left the hospital, and you didn't get it, and neither did we. But we did one thing right, and that's what we want to share with you tonight. We're not going to take long to do it. We did one thing right, and I don't know where we got it, except that early on in our marriage, someone gave us this book. Has anybody ever read The Blessing by Gary Smalley? It's not a new book, it's an old book, but if you can go to Mardell's and get it, it's one of the best purchases you'll ever make for your family. It's called the Gift of the Blessing. The thing that we were able to do was to give our children a family blessing. Many people grow up under a curse, really, by the kind of generational sins that have visited their family, some of the relationships they've seen. But we were able to give our children the gift of the blessing because in a world of uncertainty where people are awash with, am I valuable? You know, am I meaningful? Am I worthy of that? We all long for those biblical anchors that we can grab onto that says, yes, you are worthy. Yes, you are valuable. Yes, you deserve to be fully accepted by others. We all yearn for, we're wired up to yearn for intimacy. And we're wired up to yearn for that affirmation from our parents. And some of us in this room got it growing up, and some of us didn't. Rob and I talk to adults all the time who they'll talk about the struggles in life, and they'll go back to not feeling really fully loved or fully accepted. This is a choice you can make tonight for your children to know as they grow up that they have your unconditional blessing. So we want to share just a little bit about that. We know that gaining or missing out on parental approval has a tremendous effect, even if you're not in relationship with your parents now. People still want it. I work with little kids every day, and I see children who are in foster care, children who've been removed from their families, and it doesn't no matter how bad mama was, they still want mama to love them, and they still love mama. All of us are that way because God made us that way. We could tell you dozens of stories of people we know who struggle with those kind of problems, and they trace back to not really knowing that love.
Even to the most recent, in the past 3 to 4 weeks, about 3 weeks ago, I worked on what's called a Walk to Emmaus. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a really unique weekend. But in that time frame, there were 3 different gentlemen, and one of which was probably 65 years old, that came in and in a time of just need through that weekend, just talked about the fact that he never heard, and this was 3 different people on this one weekend, that they never heard their mom and dad tell them that they loved them. In fact, 2 of them talked about the fact that their dad talked about how bad they were, and that they would not amount to anything, and that their faith base that they have now is ridiculous, that there is no God, that there is no Jesus. And so they came to that weekend with that baggage. And Cheryl mentioned this word, and we're not apt to use this word often, but oftentimes it's the truth. It can be a curse on a family that is easily broken by you making that decision to love your children and tell them that you love them, and tell them how special they are, and tell them what a blessing they are to you and to this world. This blessing that we're talking about has its roots in the Old Testament. You remember Isaac and his twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Look at that. What I call that crazy, weird story. You know, the formal blessing was given to the firstborn at one particular time in their lives, and it was a monumental event. It was big. And I want to tell you, that has never changed. In the Jewish lifestyle, the blessing still to this day is everything. To this day. It gave the child a tremendous saying of being highly valued by their parents, and even pictured a special future for them. At this specific time in their lives, they would hear words of encouragement, love, and acceptance from their parents. Some of the aspects of this blessing were unique to that time of the culture, such as the blessed one receiving a double portion of the inheritance. However, the relationship elements of the blessing are still very, very applicable today. Esau, as the firstborn, had waited a long time for the day, and now it was at hand. His father told him to go and catch an animal and make a special meal for his father, and then Isaac would give him the blessing. And you'll remember in that story that his mother favored the twin brother. And she hatched a plan sending Jacob to beat his brother to the punch and fool his blind father into giving him that blessing instead. And when Esau came with the hot stew to receive the blessing, his father realized the mistake, but his words said it all. I have already blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. The Bible says Esau cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, begging, bless me also, O Father. Esau wasn't thinking about the number of goats or cattle or sheep that he had lost. He had already given that gift up to his brother long before that time. Esau was devastated because he desperately wanted his father's blessing. In those days, a father's blessing was irretrievable and irretraceable once it was given. Now this blessing is different. He begged him again, do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me, even now, my father. And Isaac did give him a blessing of sorts, but not the words of high value and acceptance that he longed to hear.
The blessing that we're talking about has its roots in the Old Testament, but it's a little bit different today. Giving your blessing, though, is just as important. And it's more than, I know every one of you here says I love you to your children. We all say that. But we say that to lots of places in lots of ways. So what we're talking about is something that goes on beyond that a little bit. The blessing, as we're talking about it, plays a big part in protecting your children from looking for acceptance in the wrong places, in giving them the confidence to be able to leave your home and to marry and to have a healthy relationship, or even other relationships, because they know who they are and have the confidence in who they are. In the Old Testament, that blessing did have several real unique aspects that Rob mentioned, but they're still meaningful today. But the blessing had 4 crucial aspects that I want us to kind of talk about for just a second. The first one was the blessing kind of brought in the picture of God's original plan for man. God created man and woman, and then it says, as God created them, He blessed them. And he blessed them in a way to connect them to his great plan, their purpose. And their purpose was to bless the rest of the world. And when you look at a lot of the biblical blessings, like Abraham's and so on, it talks about their families for generation after generation blessing the world. We were created to bless the earth. The blessing was a time to pull together a group of people in meaningful community and to show the tremendous strength that comes in community and people that believe in you. The third was, it was the time to call on God's protection for that loved one. In biblical times, if you were going to travel past the horizon, which meant farther than I can see you, you didn't leave without a blessing, because it was a dangerous time and a dangerous world to be in, even more so than today. And so if you were going out of my eyesight, you were blessed.